computer. All right, here we go. I'm just going to get everything ready for our live stream. And we should be going here in just a second. Let's see. I see. It looks like we are now streaming live on Facebook. Hello, everybody out there on our social media lives. It's awesome to see you back here. We've had 2 nights in a row of live stream work. I'm loving it. I definitely want to point out before we get started tonight that our Summer Scratcher fundraiser is still going on. You've only got 2 more weeks to grab tickets. So if you're out there and you want to, make sure you reach out and contact us. We've got a link for credit card purchase. You could do Venmo. You can reach any one of our board members or myself, and we can make sure to get you the tickets that you need because you want to win these awesome prizes, to include lots of really cool tools for the kitchen. Just saying. So anyway, welcome tonight. We are back with Ryan and Susanna from Food with Strength. And joining us again is Allison. She is back with Going Beyond the Pink as our program assistant. So you guys can all plan to see her smiling face lots around here too. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of stuff. I've got all of everybody's contact information right there in the chat. So please make sure, if you have any questions, you want to follow up, you want to look into working with Ryan and Susanna a little bit more, all of their contact stuff is right there in the chat. Make sure to reach out to them. If you have questions during this or even after the fact, go ahead and pop them in the chat and we'll make sure to get back to you and keep up with that as well. But without further ado, welcome Ryan and Susanna.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having us again. It's always great to be with Going Beyond the Pink. Like Kara was saying, my name is Ryan. This is Susanna. We are both registered dietitians and we're the owners and operators of Food with Strength. You can find us at foodwithstrength.com. Throughout any of these times, you can contact us via the contact page on foodwithstrength.com and to ask any other questions if you don't really want to ask them right now, but feel free to ask any questions that you have. Tonight, we're talking a lot about prebiotics and hydration. It's kind of, we'll get more into that as we go on, but we're going to start off with our food demo, which Susanna's going to do most of that.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, because we're going to talk about the food that has the prebiotics, and then Ryan will give you some really fun information about those things. But it's summertime, and so we're outside and we are grilling. And so Ryan is actually going to go to the grill so that the food that we're making tonight doesn't get totally burnt to a crisp. If you have tuned in to anything previously, you probably have heard Ryan and I say about 100 million times that the key to excellent nutrition is to make sure you always get your fruits and vegetables. It's like really that simple and that straightforward. And so kind of the more areas that we delve into, the more it's reaffirmed. So Ryan is going to talk again about a totally different aspect of health today that is related, especially relatable to patients who are undergoing cancer treatment or have had cancer, where again, fruits and vegetables are just kind of the champions of the nutrition world. Yeah. So that being said, I'm going to show you a little bit of the fun stuff to put on the grill. It doesn't have to all be hamburgers and hot dogs, and we have an array. So I'm going to switch you over to a different camera so you guys can see what we've got going on tonight.
I gotta interrupt for a second, Susanna. I'm so excited that you're showing us this, because I don't know about everybody else out there, but when I think about grilling, I really get stuck with thinking about the meat. So
yes,
this is awesome.
Yes,
thank you.
Totally. You can grill lots of things. You totally can. And I'm like looking here. I'm going to try and get my camera focused on this stuff. But can you guys see?
Look at how, yes, look at those colors too.
Yeah. So, and we, we went for like some less, I think maybe some less friendly, sort of easy to cook vegetables, like in your mind, right? Okay, so let me rephrase that. I think that they're vegetables that maybe people don't automatically think of to grow, right? So we've got asparagus spears, and we have got some, I don't know if you guys can see this, we've got some artichoke heart, and then we have some really lovely colorful skewers that are an array of vegetables, right? So we've got bell peppers, red onions, tomatoes, mushrooms. You could really put anything on there that you like. Those are just the things that end up getting eaten in our house. And I know that you're probably going to already guess what I have to say about these lovely vegetables, but the key here is that they're chock full of fiber, which is exactly what Ryan is going to talk about. I forgot to show you that we're also going to do this really fun this entire bulb of garlic, right? So it's going to go on the grill. So I've cut the top off of it and we put it in foil. We're going to drizzle it with olive oil and close it up. And then we're going to grill it. So anyway, fiber and lots of flavor from these things too, by the way. So my job is so easy tonight. These things are so easy to prepare. I just literally cut into chunks the vegetables that I wanted to put onto skewers. And while I am standing here right now, I'm just gonna drizzle them with a little bit of olive oil. You can kind of season these the way that you guys prefer. Ryan and I are gonna go light on the seasonings tonight because the food I think is pretty flavorful by itself. So I'm putting on some black pepper that I literally just got out of a jar. And I'm gonna do just like the tiniest pinch of salt over all of those. I do want to talk a little bit about the artichokes though, because they required a little bit of extra preparation. These are not raw.
Intimidating.
Right? I was like, never in my life, but for going beyond the pink, I'll do anything. So, yeah, so they weren't as bad as I thought they would be. There was a little bit of snipping of leaves that need to happen. And then you take out the insides after you cut them in half. And then we did boil them for a little while just to soften them a bit. And then you finish them off on the grill. So you get kind of like that really lovely grilled flavor. But similar sort of thing where I'm just gonna drizzle them with some olive oil and then just a tiny little sprinkle of salt and pepper. What did I wanna say? Oh yeah, they're really fibrous, which is, so you soften the fiber a little bit by boiling them first and then finishing them off on the grill. And I don't know, Ryan, what am I missing about these things other than they're super flavorful and simple to do?
On the grill, if you're grilling them, for the garlic, is a longer amount of time.
Oh yeah, we're gonna come back so you can see our faces now. We already did it.
I did it. My bad. Sue's already did it. She was ahead of me.
Because I did it right this time.
We're gonna do it like this,
okay,
so you can see me. So the beautiful thing with all of this, all of the artichokes, the asparagus, the skewers that have the vegetables on it, it's about 5 minutes on each side on low to medium heat.
Yeah,
if you're on a grill. You could also do this in an oven. Yeah. You would just have to flip the asparagus and you have to flip everything after 5 to 7 minutes. And that would be in an oven at about 400 degrees. It only takes maybe 20 minutes in an oven. But for 10 minutes on one side and then flip it 10 minutes. But on the grill, because it's direct heat, it takes about 5 minutes on each side. Yeah. So that's kind of the big difference there. And then the garlic. So if you're roasting a bulb of garlic, it takes about 40 minutes for it to get soft. So even if it's on a grill, you cover with olive oil. That's all you got to do. Close up the top. Put it in indirect heat on the grill, which is exactly the same as if you're in the oven. So it takes about 40 minutes. That's the one thing you have to do that start a little bit earlier. But
the magic of TV, right?
Right. So
we have some already finished for you so that we can show you some of our finished product here. I'm actually, you want me to open it?
I love the magic of TV right now.
Right? So Ryan's leaving us. He's gonna go upstairs, but like this is really delicious looking and soft. Why am I picking I can smell it too, right? So everything is super easy and quick to make. And what I like about the grilling or roasting is that you can kind of decide your level of doneness. We like a little bit of crunch left on our veggies. And I think Ryan is actually going to talk about the benefits of some of the fiber that you're going to get out of your vegetables if you do leave them a little al dente. But they're beautiful. And I'm really curious about this garlic. I want to like open it up and show you. I'm afraid I'm going to burn myself. It did just come off of the grill. So, oh my God, it smells so good. So this garlic, I don't know if you guys can see that, is super soft. And I would just spread this on something. I would probably smush it on some of the other vegetables that are here. Or if you like grilled chicken, you could kind of smush it on the chicken because it's super soft and probably sweet at this point. and not super like bitter and strong garlic flavor. Do you guys want me to try an artichoke leaf?
I would love to see that.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull
I
one.
bet it looks delicious. Like
It smells really, really good. And I think that if I remember correctly, how, artichoke eating, really you don't get, it's a lot, it is like a lot of effort for like a little bit of payoff, but this is the meaty part of the leaf. And so that's kind of the only part you're supposed to eat. And it is good. Yep. So, oh my God, yep, it's pretty good. Really, really good. And chock full of fiber. And really colorful, and a great way to balance a meal, which is also something that I kind of harp on. So it's just a different way that my go-to is usually like plunking a handful of salad down on the plate next to whatever it is that I'm eating. But this is a really fun, different way to do balanced meals and incorporate lots of veggies. So anyway, I don't know. What are people saying? If they're saying anything out there or thinking?
I love it. Bev is online watching us live here. And I said on the comments, I was like, are you all drooling yet? And she's like, yep.
Yeah, it looks really good. It really does. I'm going to eat this mushroom actually, because we haven't had dinner yet.
Yes.
So it's really tasty.
And you know what? I think it's kid friendly too, right? I mean, you definitely have fun with it, especially when it's,
when it's colorful.
Put anything on a kebab and kids are going to be all over it because it's something so different normally, right? And so this is a great way. You could please like every palate with this. And
I just know, right. And you could put lots of different things. I'm trying to think of what other types of vegetables that I would put on here. I feel like bell peppers and onions. But you could also we're talking about vegetables today because those usually, I feel like people are always trying to think about how they can enjoy their vegetables. Fruit is a little bit easier to do, but maybe we'll do a day where we grill some fruit for you guys too, because that can be fun on the grill.
Coming into peach season, everybody in the South loves some peaches, and I hear they grill pretty well.
Right, and you know what else I saw the other day? Watermelon, which surprised me. I would think that would disintegrate, but maybe not.
But I bet, if you could get it to caramelize because of all the sugars in it. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, it's looking very tasty and abundant, right? Like you can really use I call them high volume foods because they have a lot of fiber in them and they have a lot of water in them. And so they take up a lot of space on your plate and then subsequently a lot of space in your belly. So they're just really fun to look at. And they make you feel full and satisfied. Because of
a lot of the people I talk to talk about wanting bigger portions, right? Like we're particularly American diet, right? Standard American diet, we're so used to these major portions.
Right.
But I think that you can, if you have to have that portion, that big portion, like why not fill your plate with something?
With veggies, right? Yeah. So think about the real estate on your plate, right? If you need a big plate, think about how much of it you want to fill with the different types of food groups. And so we always encourage putting some really high quality protein on there. That's important to get. And then the next most important thing is always going to be a fruit or a vegetable. So yeah, totally. All right. I'm wondering where Ryan is.
He's on with us.
Is he on?
You might not see him on your screen. He's here with us. Yep.
Hi, Ryan. Sorry. Should I stop talking now? Do you want
to stop talking? We can trade.
Okay. We're trading. All right. I'm going to take the view here so that Ryan gets center stage.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just end your call down there.
Oh, end it.
Yep.
Okay. Bye.
Susie's going to jump off because we didn't mention in the beginning, but we have a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. And so their bedtimes are kind of approaching rapidly. But specifically, we're still breastfeeding. We highly recommend that anybody that's a mom breastfeed your child at least until 6 months, preferably up to a year. There's great benefits for that. So that's my random side note for why Susie has to jump off the phone right now. And then especially, since we're talking about breast cancer and everything, breastfeeding your child early on really helps you later on if you ever develop breast cancer, but also helps you become less likely to develop breast cancer. So great benefits all around. Breastfeed your kids. Breast is best. Anyways, but specifically what we're talking about today is prebiotics and hydration. So what comes really important when we're thinking about prebiotics is if we go all the way back to what we were talking about before, fruits and vegetables. We always talk about make sure you get as much whole food as you can. If it is whole, frozen, or in a can, as long as it's the whole thing and not like the juice that's just extracted from it. And the reason for that is prebiotics. So there's a lot of talk out there currently about prebiotics and probiotics. And the reason why I want to focus on prebiotics really comes down to what we do with Going Beyond the Peak, talking about cancer treatment, survival, and thriving afterward. So the difference between the two, just briefly, is probiotics, PRO, are organisms. They're bacteria that are live cultures that are currently growing. They're perfectly fine for you. And then what they do in your body is they break down prebiotics to help other organisms that are naturally occurring inside of our intestines grow. The reason why we got to think about that carefully with people going through cancer treatment is that probiotics help everything grow, right? So it's very specific. Sometimes you may be in an immune compromised state during your treatment. Usually it's very purposeful if you're in there. And in that, you're more susceptible to acute kinds of infections. Some of you might know people that have had Clostridium difficile, which is C. diff. That's what people talk about. You don't want that to grow, right? So just FYI, point blank, you don't want that to get more. So the thing that's going to help you with that is prebiotics. So prebiotics are a specific kind of saccharides, which is a type of sugar. But when we think about saccharides, they also come down into fiber being one of them. So we're thinking about fiber is a fermentable saccharide, which is very specific for prebiotics. So fermentable saccharides there's a variety of them. And what it is fermenting. When we think about the process of fermentation, it requires some kind of bacteria, some kind of organism attempting or actually breaking down a product, and that causes fermentation. That's why beer has alcohol and carbon dioxide in it, because the byproduct of the fermentation of sugar is CO2 and alcohol. And that's why beer has that in there. And then if we're thinking about our guts, though, like our intestine, we all have naturally occurring microorganisms in them. It's important that we all have that. They grow throughout our lifetimes while you're in utero, when you're getting breast milk from your mom, and then afterward. All of these organisms are growing. And a lot of what current research is kind of leaning towards is that what happens with us in our bodies might be more reflections of how healthy those microorganisms are inside of our intestines. And so what's going to help you the most with making sure they're as healthy as they can be is prebiotics, which are only found in fruits and vegetables. And the fiber that's in those fruits and vegetables, those healthy organisms in your gut, attempt to break it down. While it's breaking that down, they're growing and they're eating on it and they're nomming on it and all those things. And that's wonderful, because as they grow and they flourish, you may be getting more of the benefits from them, and they're helping you fight off colds, infections, all of those things. Remember, your skin is a primary defensive mechanism for your body on the outside. Your intestines all the way through is that same kind of organism on the inside. It's the same tissue, similar, but it's not the same. There's going to be some like A&P professors going to jump on here and like rip me to shreds, but they're not exactly the same. And the importance there, though, is that it creates the barrier, right? So especially if you are going through cancer treatment. And one of the things that I like to point out to is that some of you may be going through immunotherapy. Maybe you've tried several different kinds of treatments, and they didn't work out so well. Now immunotherapy is being suggested to you. What is frequently left off, and quite frankly irritates me, is that the people that won that Nobel Prize for that therapy, they only ever talk about the drugs for those people, the things that they gave them. What they leave out is that all those people get twice as many fruit as they are recommended and twice as many vegetables as are recommended. So as a dietitian, I feel like it's really important to stress that you need 2 servings of fruit every day. And you need 3 servings of vegetables every day. For these immune therapy people, they gave them 4 servings of fruit every day and 6 servings of vegetables every day. Now that seems like a lot. When you think of the numbers, people are like, oh yeah, I have to eat an entire crown of broccoli times 5. Like that's not true. When we're thinking about fresh whole fruits and vegetables, a half of a cup, which is about the size of half of a tennis ball, half of a baseball. If you hold your fist up, so this part, that's about 1 cup. So half of that. So, sorry for people that dislike things, but like half of that part right there, that's about half of a cup. That's 1 serving. So if you think about like an orange, like a navel orange, not a cutie or a mandarin, but like a navel orange, that's about 2 servings of fruit right there. Your typical banana that you get at the grocery store, half of it is 1 serving. So getting the whole banana is 2 servings, which is the regular recommended amount of fruit that people should be consuming. So for these people going through immune therapy, they essentially gave them 2 oranges, 2 bananas, 2 apples, and so on and so forth. That's all the fruit that they had to consume in a day. So it wasn't an astronomical sum of fruit there. And it's the exact same serving size as the same serving size for vegetables. So it would essentially be kind of what you saw downstairs when we were doing the food demo. One of those skewers is almost 2 or 3 servings of vegetables right there. Like it doesn't take a lot to get to the volume that need. And if you think about your salad and things like that, like if you get a mix of salad and you look at the back of the bag, it'll only say there's like 4 servings in there because you'd have to cram all of that into the cup to make it. So when we're thinking about that, you still have to be mindful of the volume, which would be difficult if you're doing a lot of salad. But if you're doing things like bell pepper and onion, mushrooms, skewers of asparagus, artichoke hearts, that doesn't take a lot to get to half of a cup. And specifically, when we're talking about prebiotics and these very specific saccharides, if you look up any list about prebiotics and foods high in prebiotics, you're going to see a list of like 20 that has things like chicory root, himica, onions, dandelions, and all this other stuff. But everything that is a fruit or vegetable has prebiotics in it. Like it does, you're going to find lists that are
just like the ones that have the highest amount then?
Well, it doesn't matter. It just comes down to a volume.
Okay.
Like as long as you're getting fruits and vegetables in, that's really it. And I tell this to people all the time. When it comes to, we were talking about typical American diets earlier, 1% of Americans meet the vitamin D fortified food recommendations, 2% meet the vegetable recommendations, and 3% meet the fruit recommendations. So at best, 1% is meeting all of those, right? So it's really, there's not very many people that are meeting all of the recommendations for just those 3 food groups. And when we're talking about cancer and cancer treatment, it's vitamin D fortified foods, fruits, vegetables. Those are the top lists that's going to help you through your treatment and help you fight off, and potentially some of the evidence kind of lean towards like maybe they're preventative in helping to prevent cancer. So if you look at a typical American diet, you're not eating a lot of these foods that would help you in this category. So that's.
So I'm trying to keep some notes in the comments of some of these really, because I mean, every time you guys come on, we always all learn so much, but there's been a lot of really like kind of new bells going off for me here. So I'm trying to keep notes just in case others are feeling the same way. One thing you mentioned a little bit earlier, Ryan, is that the patients that were undergoing immunotherapy, when they got double the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables, do you think that's something that should apply to patients that are currently in treatment, just with regular chemo, radiation, that kind of thing? Is there benefit or harm for them also doubling their number of servings?
I don't think there's any negative to it. If we're looking at specifically, so you'll see some of you might have experienced what's called a neutropenic fever or neutropenia. They used to think, which personally irritates me again, like I've worked in 3 different hospitals. I see cancer patients for the last like 8 years of my life. Like this is the thing that I do. Yeah. But the issue that we used to have, so maybe 10, 15 years ago, we followed this neutropenic diet where they were really concerned that people are at risk for infections because they have neutropenia and they're immune compromised. So we need to eliminate everything that could possibly give them an infection. And the diet itself forced you to cook all of your fruits and vegetables, and basically would also ask you to eliminate certain vegetables that would be an issue for you. So like people couldn't have salads because they could possibly have a contaminant on it. You couldn't, like if you cooked it, it would just be like a mush of things. What evidence has shown is that if we eliminate people from eating fruits and vegetables and you are on chemotherapy, you are more likely to get an infection such as C. diff or develop an infection that is resistant to like the most powerful antibiotic that we have. So I am really more into you should eat these things. And the only thing, if you're going through current therapy, when it comes to those things, like with everything, just scrub the outside. You can get like a fruit, vegetable. You can even do like, you got to be careful with the amount of vinegar that you use, but you can do like a diluted vinegar spray, vinegar into like 1 quart vinegar to 4 parts of water. But you might have to go a little bit higher because you could like start, like if it's too much vinegar, you're going to end up tasting it. So you're going to be like, you may not want to do that. Yeah. But that'll basically kill everything. And you have to be careful with melons are the hardest one because the fruit that's inside of it is not acidic enough to kill anything if you cut through it. Like a cantaloupe, if you have a microorganism on the outside and you haven't cleaned it off sufficiently, you cut through, you eat that, you're ingesting that microorganism. So you just got to make sure to wash the outside of your fruits and vegetables and you'll be okay.
And that's really interesting because if there was going to be a fruit or vegetable that I didn't wash, it would be something with a thick, hard rind that I was going to cut through and not eat the rind, right? So I wouldn't even really think about washing the outside of the cantaloupe before I went to cut. But wow, that's fascinating.
And you got to think that like with the melons there too, like your honeydew and your cantaloupe, it's so porous, like the outside, like it's kind of like you can, if you have your finger right here, where your knuckle is, it's like that, but it's not caught like this, right? So there's less overall surface area for it to come through. But if it's like this, it's getting through all the little cracks and there's just more stuff that can live in there.
Wow.
That's really fascinating. I'm getting all these notes. This is really amazing.
Yeah. And Ryan, something that I try to follow for myself is, eating the rainbow. When I go to the grocery store, I try to pick up one blue fruit, a green vegetable, something variety, so that I have it in my fridge. Would you give that advice to cancer patients that are maybe trying to find vegetables in the store or maybe are new to this, or do you kind of like not recommend that whatsoever?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's not, you don't have to do it necessarily for every single day. What we recommend is trying to get it throughout a week. So if you were only going to eat one vegetable on Monday and it was a red bell pepper, I would not recommend that you only eat red bell peppers for the entire week. You might want to have something different on a couple of days, but it doesn't get so strenuous that you need to have the entire rainbow in a day. Mm-hmm. That would be like challenging for anybody. Unless you're a vegan, maybe you could do it, but it'd still be like kind of tough to get that volume of food in to get all of the colors. Mm-hmm. I don't have it anymore, but I used to have we have like nutrition books and everything all around this shelf.
Yeah.
I used to have this food book for one of my classes that had carrots on the front, but they weren't genetically modified. They were just hybrid carrots with other foods, other like a carrot crossed with an eggplant. And so they had like the variety of colors, and it was just carrots all the way around, but it was like every color you could think of, but it was just like carrots. And they had just like speaking of GMOs, there's no GMO wheat. It doesn't exist. Like it's not a thing. So like all the wheat that we have out there is actually just hybrid plants where they've just been germinating, cross breeding these plants for, I don't know, like 300 or 400 years, something like that. So.
Wow.
Fascinating stuff. I just, other thing real quick, because it came up in the chat, so I want to make sure that we hit on that. Beth was asking earlier on, or just mentioning, right, that you had mentioned something earlier about, or Susanna, I think that mentioned it, about like the bulk of the vegetables and how they have a lot of water in them too, that kind of bulks them up. And she was saying she forgets that vegetables have water in them, right? That they're high in water. And she said that she'd been diagnosed with dehydration, and so like eating veggies was maybe, you know, one of the routes to increasing that. Do you have any other tips about, like, in terms of veggies, prebiotics, and hydration?
Right. So that was the other of the two topics that we're talking about is prebiotics and hydration. So we talked a lot of time about hydration, about prebiotics, but that's one of the things. If you're not eating a lot of fruit or vegetables right now, and you start eating more fruits and vegetables, you need to increase the amount of water that you should be taking in. So one of the reasons for that, if you've ever mixed concrete, or you've ever seen concrete mixing, or watched it dry, if you put more powder into your mix, it will dry faster and get harder. If you eat more fiber without increasing your water, your stools may get harder, but they may get so hard that they do not move. So you need to get water in to help you keep going. It's the number one thing that you'll see with people that have chronic constipation. They typically never consume enough fluids, and that's one of the issues. Your intestines, so the small through the large, the whole thing is where your body absorbs water from. So if you're not getting a lot of water and you start getting towards the end, which is where your stool starts bulking up, and there's not enough water that's gotten to that point, it just keeps getting bulkier and bulkier, and then you don't go to the bathroom. So it's really important. And then specifically when we're talking about people that are going through radiation treatment, so this isn't specific to chemo or post, but if you're going through radiation treatment, radiation is essentially like a kind of a burn to your tissue. And so you need more water for that because your body's burning through additional fluids and things there. So, but of course we also have to be careful with people going through breast cancer treatment specifically, because sometimes you might have more tendency to have lymphedema and those kind of things. So you gotta be mindful about your fluid balance there. So you definitely don't wanna like start getting randomly puffy in different places and things like that. But for a quick tip, if you take your weight in pounds and you divide it by 2.2, that would be your weight in kilograms, which also conveniently is the number of ounces of fluid that you should minimally consume in a day. So, for example, I weigh around 90 kilos. So if I'm around 90 kilograms, I need around 90 ounces of fluid minimally in a day. And that's me. But if anybody's number, everybody's number is going to be different. Which is one of my gripes with this whole like drink a gallon a day thing, because you might overhydrate yourself, which would also be a problem. Your body works in a very unique balance, and it's very specific because it was designed that way. So you got to be careful with your balancing your fluids. You definitely don't want too little, and you definitely don't want too much. On either side, it's not good for you. You want to be right there in the middle. And so that quick little simple calculation, wherever you're at, that's where you're going to be. And that, I just want to preface that that's a quote unquote dry weight. So if you're going through chemotherapy and radiation and you're retaining fluid, that would not be the number you use. You need to use your pre-treatment weight if that starts happening. But that's kind of, that's one of
that calculation again.
Your weight in pounds divided by 2.2.
And that equals your weight in kilograms?
That's correct.
Which is also the number of ounces in water you should drink a day. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I had it right before I posted.
Yeah, no, you're okay. Yeah, it is the funny thing with it. It's because you're jumping back and forth between conversions, because you're going from customary to metric back to customary, but you're going from a measure of weight to a volume. My original major in school was math education, so I love all, like, that's the whole thing. As dietitians, we do so much math. It's kind of insane, the amount of math that I end up doing in the day. Probably spend more time with a calculator than I do with any other things. I was talking to somebody the other day who was like on the phone, changing a rate of a thing, like with my calculator on the other side. I'm like, hi, yes, this person's breast milk needs to go up to, yeah, oh yes, it needs to go to this amount. So I'm just trying to figure it out. But I mean, that happens, that's like a normal day. Like I'm sitting there pounding things out on a calculator in one hand and talking to somebody about what they need to do on the other.
I love it. All right, so the question that always comes up, because, and I'm sure that you must deal with this so often.
I'm waiting.
I hate water. I don't like the way water, like all the anti-water sentiment. How do you handle that with people? What do you recommend they do?
I don't know, are you a child?
Right?
You want me to
Big girl panties on, let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so it's different for different people. And kind of one of the things, especially that's going to happen with people going through chemotherapy, is the acute taste changes that you guys have. And there are vitamins and minerals that need to be in water. Like there's a very popular thing in the Wilmington area that people are using reverse osmosis water for everything. Mm-hmm. The problem with reverse osmosis water is that it removes everything. So you're not getting...
You have to get the systems that put it back in.
Right, yeah. People don't do that. Yeah. Some people don't do that. It's kind of like, so you're essentially drinking distilled water, which only dilutes your body and doesn't help your body. So like if you only drink distilled water and you never got enough vitamins and minerals from other, like you're going to end up having like more of a dilution in your body than having the correct balance of things. So if you are, when we lived in Indiana, for example, the water there is very hard because of the amount of like fertilizer and stuff that's used to grow food, and which is fine. I don't have anything against that. But then the water treatment plants have to treat it a specific way to get rid of that stuff, to have to like fall out so that way it doesn't hurt you. And that is what makes water hard. And so that's kind of, and so people use water softeners so that way water's not as hard, so that way you can like shower. But the issue is it makes you feel like you're slimy and gross. And because it's like there's this mixture of like solid things that are like microscopic, you can't see it, but it's like in there. And that's kind of what's coming. It's like almost feels like a gel when it's coming on you. But and so that water there tastes terrible. So that's because it has all that stuff in it. But so like when we lived in Indiana, we would get either filtered water, which you could buy like filtered water in jugs at the grocery store if you wanted, or use like a filter pitcher or bottled water. But if you are having issues with like, when people are like, I just don't like water and I want to do this, generally when I see those people, it's inside the hospital, and I'm kind of like, yeah, sorry if you hear that. We live in an area apparently that must be tagged by fighter jets because they frequently like turn right here, which is really cool.
Oh, cool. We're barely hearing it. It's
Okay.
probably more noticeable to you than us.
It is like, I mean, I can see it through the window, so it's like it's right there because it is right there, which is amazing.
Right
like,
there.
We always joke about it like that's
so cool, right?
You know, that's freedom right there. That's why we have it, because that exists.
Right.
Because people are willing to make that sacrifice. Kind of like Kara. Kara's a veteran, so thanks, Kara, for all your service and time.
Absolutely. I love seeing the planes flying by.
Yeah, it's always cool, especially with a 2-year-old. He's like, "Look at the plane." I'm like, "Yes, I am equally as excited as you are," and I am 35.
The amazement, the sheer amazement. Yeah.
But either way, so like, I mean, generally when I'm seeing people that don't like the taste of water, it's inside the hospital, and you're going through some kind of acute change, and it's unfortunate. I can't help you out at all. Just like maybe try a couple different brands, buy individual bottles somewhere, because they're all going to be different depending on where they're bottled, and if like the company does different things. But that's people are gonna.
What's your take on things like unsweetened tea or those like drop things to flavor your waters and stuff like that? What's your take on that? Like, love them, hate them, okay, and little. What?
I don't care. Yeah. So when we're talking about the fluid in a day, that's anything that's like a liquid. Like you're gonna get some amount. We call it free water. So free water is water that's not chemically bound to something. So a chewier cookie has more free water than a crispy cookie. And so it's like the water activity.
Oh wait, so I can eat cookies and get water?
No. It's really, you're really not.
I'm counting that on my app. If you say yes, I'm still counting that on my app.
Yeah, well, that's why I said no. Because it's essentially free, quote unquote, essentially free, but it's like a molecule of water versus the entire cookie. So, I mean, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, whole cookie. It's not enough. It's definitely.
I'm just hearing that you have to eat more cookies. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I'm kidding. I'm all for eating more cookies. I love cookies. Everybody knows that. It's a thing. Eventually, one day, Kara, we'll all be together again, and we will make the chocolate chip cookies, and we'll bring them.
We have to make your chocolate chip cookies. Now, I seriously think about that at least probably once a month. Like, these are good.
Yeah, Susanna and Ryan come up. Maybe I should have some chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, I'm love that that's what you think of when you think of dietitians, because that is the truth. But when it comes to like unsweet tea, that's fine. Black coffee, also fine. The little drops, those are fine. You just don't want to overdo them. They might cause you like some GI distress if you have too much at once, because they're like because
the fake sugars that are in there,
right?
Or the sugar alternatives or whatever.
Yeah, the sugar alcohols that are in there. If you get too much of that, you're definitely gonna go to the bathroom a little bit more. But I don't know. Maybe I don't want to. Never mind. That's a joke. But I don't have anything against any of those. The only thing, like with when we're talking about sweetening things, like if you have sweet tea or you put a lot of stuff in your coffee, you're slowly neglecting the benefit when we're talking about hydration side of things. Like if you have sweet tea and you're going through cancer treatment, you may not want to do that because it's going to jack up your blood sugar. Having cancer itself causes your blood sugar to go up. If you're going through different things or you're on steroids, your blood sugar is going to go up. Avoid the sweet tea for a little while. Take a break. It's going to be okay. You'll be able to have it once again. But then if you're coffee, are you having coffee with sugar and cream, or are you having cream and sugar with a side of coffee? Like, where are you at in your balance?
Are you a Starbucks, venti frappuccino person, and that's your coffee for the day? Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's not really a lot of coffee in that. It's like the whole thing is, that you got your venti, and it's like 2 ounces of coffee, and then like filling it up with everything else as it stacks up. Yeah, so I mean, like, I don't know. Everybody's different. Everybody is unique. I gave up random stuff a long time ago. I just drink coffee black. I like it's a Susanna always complains that I eat food for its health benefits and not for the enjoyment of food, uh, but which is mildly true. She sees food when she plans out a meal by servings of food groups. I see it like Neo sees the numbers in the Matrix. Like it's a little bit different for both of us. That's kind of the.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of the thing that everybody does. It's a little bit different. We all have our own passions and things that we're good at. And like I said before, like math education was my first thing, and so like I'm like pairing up foods. Like I need this much of this and this much of this and this much of this. Right. I like the way coffee tastes. I enjoy coffee, but I really get it for the caffeine and the specific number for me and my body. So like everybody's a little bit different. I'm not going to talk about caffeine numbers currently. We're not. That's an entire different thing.
Yeah, that's another conversation altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that another time. So, but not today.
Yeah.
So Ryan, what are your thoughts on eating your water per se? You know, like cucumbers, watermelon, things that have really high water content. Obviously, you can't replace, a glass of water with eating a whole cucumber. But is that a good way to also get water intake and getting servings of fruits and vegetables?
The importance with the water inside of the fruits and vegetables is that if we're thinking about things from an evolutionary standpoint, it's there for helping you digest that food and helping it move along, which is one of the things if it's raw. So if it's cooked, what you're losing is water mostly when you start cooking it, because it's essentially dehydrating the food. So you really need to it doesn't really count towards water. And when we're talking about fluid needs, I would never count the fluid that's in a food. If you pulled it out and you made it a juice and there was no fiber in there, then we would count it because it's not chemically bound to the fiber that's in there.
That's something that I see is very popular among my age group is, eat your water, don't drink your water. And I'm like, I don't think that there's a correlation there. I'm like, I think you should also have a glass of water. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, what is that trend saying? Like, is that a smart move? And it sounds like, no, you can't replace a glass of water with,
you drinking instead. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, you could have plenty of other drinks, but it really doesn't help you if you're not balancing that out with water. We were going to do like a fun adult drink, but we were like, it doesn't really go with what we're talking about today. So maybe another time we'll talk about alcohol and some more kind of things specific to that. But you definitely don't want to only eat water. I mean, I wouldn't recommend eating ice because it's kind of bad for your teeth, but you might want to talk to a dentist about that. But that would be the only way that you could really eat water. Outside of that, I would not consider you being able to eat water.
Good to know. Good for the clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's an interesting question.
See, learning new things all the time.
Yeah, I didn't know that trend that was out there. That's a crazy one.
Yeah.
I see plenty of other weird
Keep
things.
your eyes open for it, right?
What's old is new again, and it's like they all come back around. So this must be one that is like either brand new or is really old, and it's coming back around.
Coming back around. Awesome. All right. Well, any final thoughts, Ryan? Or we're really fascinating stuff tonight. Lots of great notes.
Yeah, everybody needs 2 servings of fruit every day and 3 servings of vegetables every day. That's where you're going to get your prebiotics. Make sure you at least get 8 cups of water a day. Generally speaking, that's going to meet the minimum needs for most people. But you might have to get a little bit more than that. So it's really important, especially like here in the summertime, and especially here in Wilmington, it's been in the 90s for several days. If you're outside, you're sweating a lot.
Yeah.
If you were outside and you were sweating and then suddenly you stop sweating, that's not good. You need to go back inside and get some fluids really fast. And also, like a random tidbit, if you are thirsty, you are already dehydrated. You need to get some water.
I've heard that.
Love it.
Keep it nearby, right? Awesome. All right. Well, we've had lots of great interaction in the comments here. We've got to share it on a couple of pages. So hopefully lots of people are learning about prebiotics and hydration. All of you that are out there and watching, I mean, obviously this is great advice. Make sure that you are heeding it and changing up those diets. Let's get healthy, guys. Come on, you know? I do want to see if anybody's out there and you're coming up with amazing kebabs to go out there and grill. I want more pictures to drool over and ideas to share. So make sure that you're sharing it back here with all of us. And see you, Ryan, and wish Susanna good night for us as well. And thank you so much for being here again with us this month. We'll see you again real soon.
Well, yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
All right.